Oh, yeah. I have about 18 minutes before the cafeteria closes, and probably this is the last video. Yeah. But I just want to mention that I hadn't gotten any phone calls. I have often put my phone number in the emails that I was sending. Yeah. And I would like to speak to my sons. Now, I know that you say that, well, it's not slander, but it really is because I never got actual notice of the hearings. Yes. I didn't get notice of the hearings since 2011. Now, I'm going to want them, and I'm going to want you to enforce the laws. Now, I really get the feeling, yes, that the police and sheriff's departments don't have a problem arresting people for crimes that they know they did not commit because I was not in swim. Yeah. And my public defender wouldn't admit that. They wouldn't admit the video camera surveillance footage. They wouldn't admit that I was sleeping in a homeless shelter that night. They wouldn't admit that I was in the library and I had sent an email at the very minute that I allegedly was in Swim, Washington. Yes. And then the thought was, well, we'll just say he's crazy. We'll slander the guy and we'll deny him his rights and we'll deny the rights of his sons. Now, there's a big problem with saying that the respondent received actual notice of court hearings when I didn't. Yes. When I was never a credible threat and my wife had kidnapped and exploited my sons. Yes. And this idea of being delusional for thinking that you have to protect the rights of American citizens. Yeah. I would say that on the part of the state of Washington, that's slanderous. Mhm. Now, there was this discussion with Jack Range as my public defender, right, where I wasn't there when they had that discussion. I understood it that Jack was there to represent me, and then Phyllis and Jack decided to have a private discussion. Yes. This evaluator is not an attorney or an expert on the law. Now, I realize that Phyllis is not an attorney and she is not an expert on the law. But when I emailed the Port Angeles Police Department on June 16th of 2017 from the senior center, yes, the videos that I made while I was sitting in front of the Masonic Temple, yeah, and then they refused to admit the evidence. I needed to clarify Mr. Budnick's statements. Mr. Range informed me that the Violence Against Women's Act did not apply in this case. Well, without the signature of the petitioner, there was no personal or subject matter jurisdiction. Yeah. Without any actual proof of service. Yes. There was no personal or subject matter jurisdiction. Yes. And without the protections of the due process rights of the respondent, because I did not get notice of court hearings. Yeah. It does violate the Violence Against Women's Act. Now, using a forgery of the ex officio Superior Court clerk, yeah, that definitely violates it. And I think it comes into play with this whole victims of trafficking laws. Yeah. Where you decided you would use forgeries, fraud, yeah, misrepresentation, and then you would traffic in students that were helping the school enrich themselves at the expense of the other students and the other football teams. Now, he also stated that protection orders are occasionally served before the court has convened. Yeah. Only ex parte protection orders are issued in the actual situation where somebody has committed domestic violence. The reissuance of protection orders has the obligation of the RCWs. You do have to give actual notice. You can't have court hearings 48 days later. And they cannot be reissued unless there is 90 days before expiration of the protection order. Now, this idea of the petitioner having a chance to sign, yeah. I'm really thinking that it is trafficking because without a signature of the petitioner, yes, without the actual state court seal or the forgery, and then with the actual wrong faxing date, it looks to me like Clallam County, Jefferson County, state of Washington. Now, Mr. Budnick, as myself, did spend considerable amount of time and energy in the library researching the laws. Yes. In fact, I just researched this law. And when I said that my sons are enslaved, yes, they are trafficked victims of the Protection Act of 2000. Now, I gave you the birth certificates. I gave you the evidence from the WIAA. And then I said, I want you to enforce the law. Now, I'm going to want them, and to say that I was diagnosed with a mental illness where I'm needing psychotropic medication, very slanderous on the part of the state of Washington. I'm going to want to sue this state, and I know I'm sitting here with maybe 17 cents in my pocket, and I've kept my integrity. Yeah. But I haven't gotten rental assistance. I haven't gotten a check, a fat check, a large fat check from the state of Washington. I haven't gotten a phone call from Marilyn Van Proy, and victim or the woman complicit in the use of the image of my sister Susan Bowers. Now, I'm going to want you to end your slander. Ouch. And I'm going to want that phone call tonight. Okay, Sheriff? All right, Sheriff. Now, if I didn't have to stay at the emergency bed, I would be sure to pay the rent. Because I'm sure, yeah, the Violence Against Women's Act and trafficking in protection. Well, why don't you do this? Um, Get me all the welfare recipients of the United States and the number on the back of their quest cards. Yes. I'd like the military to call, yes, the actual number for JP Morgan Chase. And then I'd like to know every individual in the United States that has called that number to find out what their balance is. Yes. And then to find out how much they have left on welfare. Now I'm looking for those that have gotten more than they should have. Ah, shit. Now, these Jefferson County Jail, yes. Get me all of the phones again in the jail. I'm looking for a special telephone system for those that were virtualized that thought that being on welfare or being in jail or being an American citizen, the Army or the Navy didn't have to do anything. But thinking about the enlistment oath of every soldier and sailor in the United States military, so help me God. As soon as I'm sorry, get me all the phone numbers that have been called from every jail phone and all the times that every welfare recipient has called to find out what their food stamp balance is. For the last 20 years. I'm looking for a little supercomputer 44 that did need to sew right now. I'm going to want some of those billions for myself. And if you've gone to jail and thought, well, I better call my public defender, or if you did, well, I'm not wanting to go on welfare, Sheriff. I want a fat check right now. Give me a phone call from my sons and from Maryland. The VAWA and the Parental Kidnapping Protection Act. Yes. And now the victims of trafficking. Ouch. I'm going to want right now.